Has your health been covered up? Today, it's Revealing Wholeness with Dr. Troy Munson, presented to you by Infinity Whole Health.
Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Troy Munson on Revealing Wholeness. Today, we're going to talk about candida. Fun stuff. I remember way back working in my parents' health food store that people would come in with a candida infection, and my mom always talking about how difficult it was to help these individuals. And as I've been in practice more and more, we've come to find out that candida is a really weak pathogen. So anything that was in the body that tends to cause problems or seemingly cause problems, we would call a pathogen. And the fact that it doesn't take much to kill the thing, when it's living in a body, the body is fairly weak. Now, we might see like a yeast infection with a woman. It's oftentimes, if you're a woman, you may have already experienced this. You'll go get an antibiotic and they will give you yeast infection medicine right along with it because they know that when they give you an antibiotic, it's going to kill everything. And now it leaves you wide open for other infections. And candida is everywhere. It just comes in when there's nothing to stop it. But yet the body rejects candida quite easily and effortlessly. And if it's not doing it, we have a system that's really quite ill. We can say that it's just a gut thing, but when it's systemic, and now I've got nail fungus stuff, I've got maybe even some people out there probably have experienced a white hairy tongue, where they literally have candida on their tongue. I've seen it in infants more often, and they'll put I think it's a purple kind of antifungal thing in their mouth trying to kill it. But, the thing that should really beg the question, how is a body so weak that I can't even reject and kick out of my body candida? And that's really what we want to get to in this particular podcast. We're going to do a candida spit test. And in this candida spit test, you're going to spit in the first thing in the morning upon rising if you suspect that you're having some type of yeast infection, and you're going to watch that glass of water about every 15 minutes, set a little timer, and you're going to go and you're going to watch that glass. And if you start to see long strands hanging down from your spit and little things resting in the water, like in the middle of the water, in the glass of water, then now we can be pretty sure that you probably have some sort of candida or some type of yeast infection. Do we need to know what it is? No, we just need to now start changing the body's pH so that we make it uninhabitable for that bug, so to speak. So as we've talked on other podcasts, as you maybe been listening, we talk about the environment. I always love the old, I'm going to date myself here, the old Wild Kingdom shows where it talked about their natural habitat. And so the natural habitat of a lion is a savanna. Well, the natural habitat of bacteria and funguses and yeasts is unhealthy bodies that are already sick. They don't make sickness. They're the cleanup crew. So why is the candida there? The candida is eating up debris in your gut, trying to really decompose undecomposed stuff that your body couldn't digest. So first and foremost, we would know that if it's just in your digestive tract, you've definitely got some digestive issues. And let's say that I'm somebody that's overweight and I'm having a really difficult time losing weight. And in my past talks, I've talked about if our gut is filled with sugar-producing bacterial colonies. There are lactic acid-producing colonies. There are sugar-producing colonies. If I have these sugar-producing colonies and my small gut is fairly alkaline, I now have a breeding ground or a right environment for candida to come in and be so happy to eat up all that sugar that those bacteria are producing and create more problems with yeast issues. And so now I get even more problems. And that sugar that those bacteria are producing now go into the body as well. And now I'm getting sugar that I don't even realize I'm getting. And it's more difficult to lose weight. So as we begin to try to change the gut bacteria into a more acidic form, into lactic acid producers, and begin to cleanse the body and begin to eat up debris, this is where enzyme therapy becomes really kind of nice, to take enzymes on an empty stomach. If you're going to go after something hardcore and really try to kill the the candida with certain herbs, garlic, podiarco, things like that, it can produce a die-off that doesn't feel real good. It feels like a really, pretty good cold. And that's killing things a little bit too fast. There's also reasons why we believe that the yeasts are there as well, that they're there to eat up heavy metals and other things. So there may be some chemicals that are in there that they're actually protecting us from. So sometimes when our body becomes weakened and we can't detoxify well enough, often enough, we now have these little bugs that will come in and actually help assist us. Just like a couple podcasts ago, I talked about bacteria and viruses are the cleanup crew when I have a diseased organ or tissue. When I don't have something functioning real well, they come in and they start eating all the dead, diseased tissue to try to help clear it away. And now I can replicate and heal with new healthy tissue on a barren soil, so to speak, instead of all this debris. They're actually forming, or at least having a purpose in my body. But we tend to vilify the virus and the bacteria, saying they made me sick, when all in all, it was the poor diet and the overstressed body and the overstressed lifestyle that weakened the tissue and now made it go south, and now they're just trying to help you. And yet we pick on them all the time. It seems to be kind of how Americans do it. We do these weird things. We take stands against strange things like the flu, and then we realize that, you know what, maybe I'm really the one to blame. Maybe it all really falls on my shoulders, and it's just me shortchanging myself with diet or with, let's say, like a financial thing, trying to get rich quick. You can't get healthy quick, so to speak, when it comes to the body. It takes work, it takes effort, just like financial freedom sometimes takes a fair amount of work too. You can have a masterful idea and make a lot of money with it, but if you don't know how to keep it, that doesn't help either. So as we kind of create these analogies for folks to grab onto, we want you to realize that changing over the gut bacteria is doable. It just takes a little bit of work. It will also help tremendously by having a diet that comes along that's high in nutrients, that helps our liver detoxify, helps our bowels begin to break down debris, get it out of the system, have a lot more fiber in our diet by eating decent vegetables. All this stuff is helpful, and that's the design. And so with Candida, we're going to start that process by doing a diet higher in lacto-fermented vegetables like sauerkraut, kimchi, pickles, kava. Right now in my fridge, I've got 2 huge containers of pickles that my wife just did. They're wonderful. Love it. And so it's a non-heating type of mixture, so they stay nice and crisp, and we'll just keep them in the fridge. And we'll eat them for the next 3 or 4 months, and then, we won't have any more pickles, but we'll do kimchi, I'll do kimchi. My wife doesn't like kimchi, but we'll do sauerkraut, and she's actually starting to get a little bit of a taste for sauerkraut. I like sauerkraut quite a bit. I have clients that make it and bring it. It's so wonderful. And these are things that if they're in your diet often, you're getting strains of bacteria that I've mentioned on other programs, where if I take a probiotic, I might get 6 to 8, maybe 10 lactobacilli colonies that I'm taking in a pill form, and we don't know if they're alive or not. But when we eat something like sauerkraut, we're getting over 200 strains of different lactobacilli that go into the body and now create diversification in the gut. Why is diversification in the gut important? Because it protects us by having good solid colonies. It protects us from bad bacteria that we may have eaten in some food somewhere and gotten there, so it's naturally protective. They're detoxifying. They keep the gut nice and healthy. If we do an antibiotic, let's say our life is on the line and we have to do an antibiotic, which is the only time I ever recommend doing an antibiotic. We shouldn't be doing it as a regular act of medicine, in my humble opinion. Our body's strong enough to resist a lot of these things. And so antibiotics are kind of a last-ditch effort, because once we do an antibiotic, it wipes out all of your bacteria in your gut, and we literally have only 1 or 2 strains left over when we're done. And they've literally measured people 2 years later, and they have like 2 strains of bacteria still in their gut. They don't have this wonderful diversification in their gut to protect them. And so as we eat things that are supposedly supposed to be, good for us, that are these fermented foods, we want them fresher. We want to continually reestablish that. I have clients that they have really, really tough gut problems, and I will do products that literally clear the entire playing field of bacteria, good and bad in the gut, just take it all down during the weekends, and then we will feed during the weekdays. And so they do products on the weekends and they feed the gut on the weekdays so that we can begin to repropagate with good, healthy colonies to take over these things while doing things like liver detox, supporting things with high vitamin E, high vitamin C that are natural, that have all the phytonutrients to help the liver literally thin things that are coming from the blood, oxidize them, get rid of them, denature them, and then get them out of the body. So we need those detoxification processes. Also, really high quality yogurt, organic, the better. More whole milk, the better. Raw milk is excellent. Anything like that you're doing. Raw cheese is also fermented, so those things are excellent as well. And as we begin to change over that bacteria, we want to now start feeding the good colonies, so we want to remove a lot of sugars and refined carbohydrates from the diet. Plus, we want to be really careful with chlorine in our water, with bromine in food, because they use it as a dough conditioner. Those are really hard on gut bacteria. And then any kind of situation that that may be personal to you that tends to aggravate the yeast infection. So, let's say every time you brush your teeth, you get this weird infection. Okay. When we're trying to change over bacteria, you might have to change your toothbrush, and you might have to change your toothbrush a lot until we kind of have to be gentle with you, because the system is so sensitive that we can't even use your toothbrush over and over. But give us a couple years. It doesn't matter the toothbrush you use. Your body's now strong enough to resist that candida constant coming in an infection. So those are things to consider as well as we go through the process. So, as always, healthy diet, whole foods, raw foods more if you can, and staying away from carbs, staying away from grains, doing your own breads, grinding your own grain is always a wise move. And all those wonderful nutrients that's in the germ that we've talked about in other shows, those are the things you want, that have lots of minerals, that keep our body pH balanced. So now we support bacterial growth in the gut and make it harder for candida and other things to grow even in the blood. So if you have systemic candida, it's gonna filter into that. All those things are a no-brainer that those are things you want to be doing in this kind of situation. And so that's kind of an overview on candida and a little bit of a how-to and a what-to. As always, if you're going to work with something really difficult like that and you're having trouble, send me an email, shoot me a text, whatever you need to do. We'll get it handled. We'll help you on your way and do whatever it takes. And until next time, I'm Dr. Troy Munson on Revealing Wholeness.
This concludes another episode of Revealing Wholeness with Dr. Troy Munson. If you have any questions concerning this podcast or others, you can reach Dr. Munson by email at chiroman, that's CHIRO-man, @dr.com. Or you can call him at his office during office operation hours at 360-893-8586. This show is sponsored by Infinity Whole Health on the Disruptors Podcast Network.
The information on this podcast from Dr. Troy Munson is meant to educate the listener on a variety of health issues. It is not meant to diagnose or treat any conditions.